Okay, this is interesting. Also, I can't remember. I can't remember any concert I ever played with Maynard where he didn't wind up getting a standing ovation at the end, right? And it was almost expected, I guess, when you're in the band. I didn't really think about it until after a couple of years. I was like, man, this every night, boom, it was like on cue. And when I left the band for a year, after 4 years, and I left the band for about a year, then came back, and we would have these leader talks where I would ask Maynard, how do you handle this situation as a leader, and what's it like being a leader, and who were some of your favorite leaders, because he was with Boyd Rayburn, Charlie Barnett, Jimmy Dorsey, Stan Kenton. Yeah. And as soon I asked, who was your favorite leader? Boom, Stan Kenton. He meant Stan like that without even thinking. Stan was the best leader. Right? And we just talk about how different guys would lead a band. It was interesting. It's a whole other thing. It doesn't have anything to do with playing. It could have something to do with playing. If some leaders are playing leaders, other leaders are more like businessmen leaders, that kind of thing. So anyway, but we started talking about. I mentioned about how do you pace a set, or one of the things I knew Maynard would do whenever we played a school that had a big drum and bugle corps element to it. Especially some of the Midwest schools that are big, really big into some of the marching band things. Maynard, one of those guys in the front 2-3 rows, right? Because he said the standing ovations go from front to back, and the crowd, they don't go from back to the front. I mean, at the end of a concert, nobody's turning around to see who's standing. You either get up or you don't. And that was interesting. He mentioned that, and I thought, wow, that's pretty good. And he was right. But I asked him one time, I said, your shows, our concerts, when we played them, they have a flow about them. I mean, one tune after another, the programming. Because we would either play two sets, be like 2 1-hour sets, or we'd play one long, like 90-minute set, or I forget whatever it was. And if you played 2 sets, whoever hired the band would pay half of it up front before you even got to the venue. And then if you were doing a 2-set gig, after you played the first set, you got paid. And before you played the second set, you have to make sure you have the money, cash or cashier's check, or money order or cashier's check. I remember that was it. And we waited. We had some long intermissions waiting for money. Because once you play that second set, you don't have any collateral. You're done. Then it becomes a legal game where you're chasing your money. But anyway, whenever we played those 90-minute sets, those one shot, no intermission gigs, you would get paid beforehand. It was all in the contract. Every now and then you would have a problem. And you would never have a problem in a high school or a college. If you played a university, those band directors or those people holding the money, they're very uncomfortable with those big checks. As soon as sometimes we would pull right in and the guys are, here, take it, take the money. I don't want this thing anymore. But sometimes you'll play some of the clubs and it was like, you have a little problem. I remember Maynard saying, man, if I never played another jazz club, I'd be happy. Because sometimes, not all of them, but sometimes when you get a problem going with getting paid, it's hardly ever a university or a high school. But anyway, not to mention the parents would cook for you if you played in a high school. You're on the road and you have some parents cook for you, and you're in that's great. That's great. Anyway, so I asked Maynard. I said, your sets, everything feels good. He goes, well, I said, do you plan your sets out? He goes, oh, always. I said, no kidding. I said, what are you thinking about when you put your set together? And he goes, the first thing you do, there you go. The first thing you do is figure out how you're going to end it. That's the first thing. And then you just build towards it. He goes, you don't build it from front to back. You hear it and experience it from front to back. But you plan it. He does anyway, from back to front. He says, do you want to end the gig mellow? Do you want to end it big? Do you want to end it with a quick ending, like a song like St. Thomas, or something, a quick ending, or if don't do that. But it's is it a song that ends real quick, or is it a song with a held chord that's big, where the drummer could go at it and the trumpets can all pop high notes and that kind of thing. So since he ended it with what he's strong with that, the high thing. He puts a fermata at the end. He gets the drummer to go at it. And the guys all play a G. He plays a C. It's really dramatic. And there's no way that you can experience that and not think, what the heck? He gives you that dominant chord, dominant, root. Oh, my God, Anyway, it worked for him. But then you put that at the end, and then you plan to it. So once that's at the end, then you set it up. So you set up this big, big ending with maybe like a mellow thing. Okay, and then now you have this mellow thing, and you can put almost anything that isn't mellow in front of that. It could be a funk tune, it could be a Latin type thing. Oh, so you do a Latin tune. Boom, then before that you put a swing tune, and you just keep building it. But he also liked to start it right out of the gate. So he liked to hit like a home run as soon as he starts. So he would build it and then bang, precede something with something really exciting and up or whatever, a flag waver, because that's how he liked to start it. So he even shaped it. I'll never forget. He goes, the shape I like to use on a one-set gig, a 90-minute set, is this. So this is exciting. This is mellow. He goes, it's like this. Start it, and then we do our bop, boo, da. He comes in, but then he starts the set. It's like this. It's bang. He comes down. There's a hump in the middle. He comes down, and then it ends like that. So it's almost like a W with a slightly smaller inside. Boom, little bump, boom, then bang, take it up. So he looked at it like it was a form. He looked at it like it was actually like a line graph. And damn if it wasn't great. I mean, it worked. It worked for him as a trumpet player, doing what he does. It allowed him to pace his chops because he equated it to pool. When you play pool, billiards, if you're not just smacking the balls in, you line it all up. You hit this ball in and the cue ball lines up for the next shot, that lines up for the next shot. And if you do it right, you can clean out the table if you set it up right. And that's what he does with the set. So I thought that was interesting. He looked at the set as a grid. But he always started at the end, and it's interesting when John Irving, the novelist who wrote the Cider House Rules and The World According to Garp, in some interview or something, he talked about when he writes a novel, which could take 4 or 5 years out of your life to write, says he can't get started until he knows what the last sentence is, and it kind of makes sense. So if you know where this thing is going to land, you can create almost anything you want getting to it. And then when you read it from front to back, it's like, boy, that just flowed real nice, or that was great, or I was tricked and I didn't see it coming, whatever. When you know how you're going to end it, you can throw almost anything in front of it to set it up, to make you feel like it's going to end, or to make you feel like it's not going to end if they want to surprise the crowd. Interesting stuff. But anyway, I thought that was interesting, how you pace a set. It was actually something he thought about a lot. And he had his method down, and it worked for him. And it took me a couple of years before I realized it was actually a plan. I thought it was just always, to me, it always felt right. But no, you actually think it out. Go figure. Actually thought out. Anyway, how you plan a set.